In Canada, resumes typically follow a chronological format, but the functional or a combination of the chronological and functional might be used in some cases. For the purpose of these resume writing videos, we will be focusing only on the chronological format. The primary goal is to present your qualification clearly and concisely, and I will be sharing just a little bit more on each resume format as we go along. Regarding the functional resume format, this is also known as a skills-based resume. It focuses more on your skills and qualifications rather than the chronological format of your work history. So in this resume, you're showcasing more of your skills rather than where you worked, when you did the work, and how your career has progressed, right? And this resume is usually valuable in some cases for people who have a lot of gaps in their career, for people who are switching from one career to the other, However, our suggestion is to, even if you have gaps in your career, our suggestion is to still stick with the chronological format because that's the format that most employers look for in Canada. Moving on to the combination format. The combination resume format is also known as a hybrid resume. It merges elements of both the chronological and the functional resumes. The combination format highlights your skills and achievements, like in the functional resume, but also provides information on where you worked and when you did the work. This format showcases your relevant skills and accomplishments while also providing information on your work history. Well, if you've been thinking, I'm thinking the same. It's gonna be long. And we already know that the Canadian resume typically should not be more than 2 pages, right? So I agree. You should probably stay away from that one. And that's why we're going to be focusing more on the chronological format, except in cases where it's been expressly requested by the employer. Now let's talk about the chronological format. This is the format we'll be focusing on, like I said earlier. And this is the format that, most employers ask for. And you will be showing your work experience in a way that from the most recent experience all the way back to your oldest position and employer. That's basically what it means, right? It's called reverse chronological. So you start from your most recent down up to the oldest experience that you have. And you would also write or list your educational qualifications in the same manner. You will be starting from the highest level of qualification to the next highest, to the next, like that. So I've seen some resumes where the person did their work history in a reverse chronological format, but they listed their experience in the actual order where they listed their oldest education first and their most recent education came last. Please don't do that. Ensure that you list your most recent education first, and then even for your volunteer experience, list your first volunteer experience first, and then go all the way to the oldest one. The chronological format highlights your career progression because then whoever is reviewing your resume is able to see your most recent accomplishments at the top of your resume, which is also why when you're listing your achievements on your resume, you have to make sure that you list the most recent one first, right? And then it can go, and that's what employers are looking for, right? They want to see your achievements. They want to see what makes you tick. And this is the format that shows how the journey that your career has been on. If you've been growing progressively, it helps the employers to see that. If there's whatever has been happening, so it can work for or against you, to be honest. But I would say there are different ways of doing your resume. Like somebody said, resume writing is like a resume is like beauty in the eyes of the beholder. Right? There's no, it's not cast in stone, just that there are some guardrails that you really, really have to be mindful of. Guardrails like your resume should not typically be more than 2 pages. Guardrails like you should be using your chronological format. Guardrails like just ensure that, there's lots of white spaces in your resume, things like that we'll talk a little bit more on as you go along in, with us on this, video series.